Trouble paying attention, controlling impulsive behaviors, and being overly active all are symptoms that so commonly get tested and bucketed into this diagnosis of ADHD. Having talked with hundreds of parents about this diagnosis and the natural ways to help it, there is still a lot of confusion on if a child actually has ADHD and what are the causes and how can we help them without the medications. Now, in this video, we look at ADHD through a different lens than just a diagnosis, really unpacking it to see the symptoms and then how the brain and nervous system influence these systems of the body that really help bring about the attention, the focus, and the impulse control struggles. Now, going back to a main root cause, we will help truly make sense of it and find the answers and address the difficulties. Now, this video is for you parents who are looking for a medication, a drug-free option. You may have heard from a teacher, from a school administrator, a counselor, that medication is the only or best option, but it's not congruent with your beliefs. Additionally, many dads and sometimes moms attribute ADHD symptoms as genetic. Often hear this, I struggled with this, so it makes sense that my child does too. Now, this video is designed to look at ADHD through a different lens. It isn't just a struggle in the brain, it's the nervous system input to the brain, and ADHD isn't just hyperactivity and can turn into a huge energy drain as we get older, especially later in elementary and teenage young adult years. Now, please share this video with other parents who need to hear this message. Now, here's what we know. ADHD isn't just a busy, overwhelmed brain. The body can be overwhelming the brain also, causing the entire central nervous system to be in this fight and flight protective mode. Now, the question most parents have is, where does this stress from the body, our internal environment, come from? Now, the quick answer is from 4 key stressors that are often overlooked. 1, high stress and high risk pregnancy. This puts mom and baby into this sympathetic dominant state that shifts more of them into this fight and flight or protective state. 2 is birth interventions such as forceps, vacuum, extraction, C-section, or even induction places a physical component of stress, most commonly the upper part of the neck and shoulders, which overwhelms that neuromotor development. Fussy, colicky as an infant with reflux or constipation struggles that then continue to overwhelm our autonomic or automatic nervous system. Then we get frequent ear infections or respiratory infections before the age of 3 years old, along with antibiotic use, further adding to the stress to the autonomic nervous system in the vagus nerve, that real brain to gut connection. Now, when the nervous system gets overtaxed and overwhelmed with these 4 stressors that I just kind of talked about, the signals to it sends to the brain are full on protection, fight and flight response in every area of the brain, like the cerebellum, which is our motor center, which causes kids to not be able to sit still. The midbrain, which is our limbic system, specifically what we call our hippocampus, which affects focus and attention, and then the prefrontal cortex regions that affect socialization, situational awareness, and the ability to self-calm and regulate. ADHD isn't just hyperactivity. It's an overwhelmed body and brain that can cause brain fog, focus, and attention issues, and if not addressed, can be a huge energy drain for our kids. This is actually quite common to see with ADHD, especially if they have struggled with all 4 causes above that I talked about. And the more wound up and tired out they are, instead of hyperactive. Now, these are some of the main causes. When the system in a sympathetic dominance for a long time, high energy, low sleep, constant stress, it eventually burns out and demotivates, and tiredness, grumpiness starts to settle in. And yes, genetics can influence these behaviors, but not nearly as much as we think it does. The nervous system, the vagus nerve, and its development play a much greater role. Now, in studies that were done by Bruce Lipton, who's a PhD biologist who studies epigenetics, he says it's estimated that no more than 15% of genetic code determines our outcomes. This means that 85% is up to us, influenced by our internal, our external environment. And this is incredibly encouraging, meaning that even though dad may struggle with attention, focus issues, it doesn't mean that their kids do too. Now, putting this all together, kids struggling with ADHD most commonly have a significantly imbalanced and dysfunctional nervous system. This condition is also known as dysautonomia, and the most common presentation of this is an overactive and excessive response within the sympathetic fight and flight gas pedal part of the nervous system, and thus an underactive and understimulated parasympathetic brake pedal side of the brain and nervous system. Now, to close this video, our work as pediatric chiropractors focus on addressing the subluxation, which is the stress in the vagus nerve that dysautonomia challenges directly, getting the sympathetic nervous system unstuck, and in turn, really helping activate and stimulating the parasympathetic, the brake pedal part of the nervous system, with each and every single adjustment that we do. While each individual adjustment is able to stimulate and activate that nervous system in a certain way, it really takes time and repetition to make long-lasting changes within the brain and the autonomic nervous system. Now, most parents and caregivers begin to really report positive changes in the first few weeks for younger children, and over a matter of a few months for older children. And many others experience instantaneous change, just as really I did personally when I started getting chiropractic. The term for this change via time and repetition is what we call neuroplasticity, and it's a natural and normal part of brain development in kids, and also extremely important in the recovery from traumatic birth and brain injuries. Now, we start first by taking an in-depth, personalized case history on each child, and then the most exciting aspect of our work is that we can directly measure a child's subluxation patterns and that dysautonomia that I talked about via an incredible piece of technology called the Insight scans. Now, this is the most essential step in helping a child with ADHD find a drug-free care option, as it allows us to narrow down to the foundational root cause elements discussed throughout this entire video. Now, for more information, I'm going to attach an article to share. Please remember, there are medication-free options available. ADHD isn't genetically predetermined, and with it, it's rooted in the nervous system, and we can change that long term.